Unconventional? Yes. But am I conventional? No. So, not everyone at university is the same, and I'm one of those people. Around to the end of my summer holidays, and I'll start my second year in around a month, and I thought, well, this is a good time to reflect on what I wish I had done as preparation for my first year of university. For economics, I go to UCL. So the following content is going to be related to UCL economics, but I believe that the core maths is pretty much the same for anywhere where you're going to study economics. So don't feel restricted by what I say. If you feel like there's other things that you want to look into, please do that. I think one thing that you guys should know is that the topics I'm going to talk about are things that you should revise and learn a bit about. There are obviously going to be things that you aren't going to know beforehand. So basically, everything I'm going to say are things that you can revise for because they were in your A-levels or you have access to them. So you can just revise over it and brush up on any skills, make sure that you know what is going to happen. See, the topics that you don't know and that you can't revise for, there's no point stressing over them because it's not like you're going to be able to learn it in time. 1 month is not enough to do that, and you're going to university to learn these things or to learn how to learn those things. So, but if you revise all the topics that I list, or like the majority or the ones that I'm going to bold or highlight, then you don't need to worry. You're pretty much set in terms of the academic aspect of university econ. Of course, once you know these things, then you can focus on the more challenging aspects and you don't have to worry about revising, like learning and relearning these topics because you didn't revise over them, which is something I had to do. I didn't revise because I didn't have exams for my A-levels. So after March, I did not revise anything. So I should have prepared. So that's what this video is for. The topics you go over here will be useful to you. If you have any specific questions or you want a comprehensive list of topics, then please let me know in the comments below. I'll answer them. 3 of my core modules had maths only, it was maths related. If you can focus on maths now, then you don't need to worry about the actual econ module, the actual supply and demand diagrams and all that, because you've already covered that in your A-level economics. So if you're fine with A-level economics, then that's good, you don't need to worry. For those who didn't do A-level economics, you don't need to worry either, because there's a lot of new topics that come up, so it's not like people who've done economics A-level have an advantage over you, because you both have to learn new things, which actually the majority of things are actually quite new, so I wouldn't stress. So the module for at UCL that I found the hardest for econ was the maths one, and these are the topics that come up in either A-level, they come up in A-level maths or AS further maths, and I think a few come up in A-level further maths. The order I'm going in is it goes in chronological order. The first few topics are what I learned in the first few weeks. So if you don't have enough time, or if you're watching this video with only 1 or 2 weeks to go and you want to prepare, then you can just focus on the first few topics. When you start learning about it, then you know that you've covered this already and you're already confident with it, so focus on your other modules. Vectors, matrices, square matrices, echelon matrices, inverse matrix, determinants, quadratic forms, partial differentiation, implicit differentiation, maximum, minimum, stationary points on a curve. So when you learn about curves and you have to do the differentiation, first differentiation is this, the second derivative means that, so that stuff. Lagrange multiplier, and I believe that comes in further maths. If not, then what I used was Khan Academy. Those videos were quite useful, but it actually goes way more complicated than you need to. So just look at simple videos for that. If you know the basics, then it's easier for you to understand the harder concepts that your professor teaches you. Differential equations, difference equations, and then you have to know a bit of trigonometry, but it's not a lot. So in that it's addition formula, inverse, and trig functions, but I wouldn't stress too much. It's only 1 or 2 weeks worth of topics. And then you have complex numbers, which comes up in further maths, and then you have eigenvalues, which also comes up in further maths. But if you haven't done further maths, I didn't do further maths, don't worry about that, because there are quite a few YouTube videos out there which are useful, and if you have a friend who's done further maths, then you can ask them for a picture of the textbook or which teaches about eigenvalues. We do go over the basics initially at the beginning, so have a look at that. The next module which I found pretty hard and I wish I had revised over was my statistics module. I mean, the basics come from A levels. These are topics that you can revise for. Make sure you know these things properly so that you don't need to worry about relearning these and wasting time on that, because it's going to get hard quickly. Again, I'm going in chronological order. Key definitions of, population, sample, histograms, scatter plots, and just the formulas behind, the range, variance, standard deviation, and coefficient of variation, and what those numbers mean. And then we learnt about Venn diagrams. So, like A, N, B, or A union B, all that. If you know how to show that on Venn diagram, that would be perfect. Also know about permutations. We've done that in GCSE and A level, so don't worry about that. Just make sure you know how to calculate those. Then tree diagrams, and you can compute conditional probability using them. And then also if you can calculate whether events are statistically independent. So those are topics that you can go over. Once again, like if you want me to write a more specific list of what we've done, what we've covered in each of my maths modules, or any of my modules even, then write it down. And then discrete random variables, and then we learnt about binomial probability distributions, like the B, wiggly line, X, that. Then there's normal distributions. Just make sure you know what that is and all the key figures for that. Even now I've forgotten. Then know your simple random samples, confidence intervals, and null and alternative hypotheses. How to write them and formulate them, and also critical values. So those are the basic things. Make sure that you do know them. Hardest module was applied economics, and here are the topics that I think you can look over, but do keep in mind that some of these haven't been covered in A level, but they are related to things that we've learnt in stats. So we have difference between correlation and causation, simple regression model, something you can find out on YouTube. One channel that I find useful for that is Z Statistics. Then you have the OLS estimator, hypothesis testing, which relates to stats, confidence intervals, multiple regression. Make sure you know your logarithms and what they mean, and the difference in difference estimator, which of course, like I've said some things that you haven't heard of, and if you're stressed about it, don't feel stressed about it, because one thing I found with applied was we learnt about it we did that course in our second term. So if you know your stats, it's not that difficult to pick it up. Don't think too much about it, but you don't have to prepare for this now, because just keep in mind that if you know your stats really well, then you won't have a problem with applied. My fourth last compulsory module for first year economics was my economics module, and I'm not gonna state a list because it's too long. What I'm gonna do is attach the link to the textbook that we used. It's an online textbook which is free, and we literally go through that week by week and just go through the chapters, have a skim through them. Yeah, it's called The Economy by Core Econ, but the link is down below. Some topics have come up in A level, so game theory and Phillips curve, stuff like that. I mean, they do go in more depth this time because it is university. There you have it. Those are all the topics that I would recommend you to go over, to revise, to brush up on. If you want to, you don't have to, but I think this is what I wish I would have gone over, and I wish I'd found a video like this before, because I literally had no clue on how to prepare for econ at uni. And this is for UCL, but like I said, this is core math. I hope you found the video useful, and if you have any questions about the modules and the content or anything, let me know down below.